All right, Raiders Nation, let's talk about what's buzzing right now around Las Vegas and why this conversation about the cornerback position keeps getting louder. The Raiders have been dealing with a shaky secondary, and the injuries are starting to pile up. Eric Stokes, who has been holding down the #1 cornerback role through the early weeks of the season, went down with a knee issue back in Week 4. Nobody has clear details yet on the severity, but what we do know is that he left the game early, and it raised every alarm you can imagine. When you've got a player who has already been through multiple knee problems in a short career, it's hard to look at him as a reliable long-term piece. Stokes has already missed more games than he has played since he entered the league, and with that history, can you really count on him to anchor the secondary the rest of the way? That question alone opens the door for the Raiders to seriously consider going after more help at corner. Now, even if Stokes somehow comes back 100% healthy, the Raiders' depth at cornerback is still paper thin. Cameron Richardson has been stuck on the sideline with a nagging hamstring issue since Week 1. Darnay Holmes is on the roster, but nobody honestly trusts him to hold down meaningful snaps. Darian Porter has shown flashes when he has been on the field, but the opportunities have been limited. Then there is Kai Blue Kelly, and his recent performances have been rough, to put it kindly. Raiders fans have been shaking their heads because watching him cover receivers has been painful. When you look at that entire cornerback room, it is full of question marks, inconsistencies, and more risk than stability. And that is where a name like Tariq Woolen becomes really interesting. Yes, Woolen has had his struggles lately, but when you talk about a player with his size, his athleticism, and the flashes he showed in Seattle as a rookie, the upside is obvious. Pete Carroll drafted him and immediately turned him into a playmaker. Back in his rookie year, Woolen looked like he was on track to be one of the best young corners in the league. He had 16 passes defended and 6 interceptions as teams kept testing him, and he made them regret it. Since then, his numbers have dipped, his confidence has wavered, and he has been sliding down the Seahawks depth chart. But let's not forget, the Raiders need bodies, they need talent, and they need someone who can actually create turnovers in a defense that has lacked game-changing plays for far too long. The situation in Seattle might actually play into the Raiders' hands. With Devin Witherspoon coming back from injury and playing extremely well, plus Darian Kendrick stepping up in the nickel spot, and Josh Jobe proving reliable on the outside, the Seahawks suddenly have options at corner. That makes Woolen expendable, especially when his performance has been inconsistent and his contract situation is coming up. Seattle could look at this as the perfect chance to trade him while his stock still carries value as a starter rather than letting him drift into a bench role and lose that leverage. From their point of view, it's smart business. From the Raiders' perspective, it's a chance to pounce. Think about it like this. Woolen was a 5th-round pick back in the 2022 draft. If Las Vegas can offer something close to that value, say a 5th-rounder in 2026, it's almost like Seattle breaks, even while moving on from a player they do not plan to pay long-term. For the Raiders, that's a low-risk, high-upside gamble. You get a corner with freakish athletic traits, proven production in his rookie year, and a history with Pete Carroll, who has a knack for getting the best out of defensive backs. Add to that the fact that the Raiders' secondary is desperate for a spark, and suddenly the trade makes all the sense in the world. Now, I know plenty of fans are already saying, why trade for a guy with bad PFF grades this season? He's regressed. He doesn't look the same. And that's fair. His grade is sitting at just over 40, which is not pretty. But here's the argument. The Raiders cannot sit around waiting for perfect options. Sometimes you have to buy low, bring a guy into a new system, and hope that a change of scenery and coaching can bring him back to form. We've seen countless players revive their careers after a fresh start, and Woolen has all the physical gifts that you simply cannot teach. At 6'4" with blazing speed, he is built to be a shutdown corner if he gets back on track. There's also the Pete Carroll connection to consider. Carroll is known across the league as a cornerback whisperer, and Woolen is his type of player to a T. Long, tall, physical, and with the kind of athleticism that makes scouts drool. If the Raiders' coaching staff can channel even a piece of what Carroll tapped into during Woolen's rookie season, they could turn him into the #1 corner this team desperately needs. Raiders Nation has been crying out for stability at that position, And this might be the most realistic path to finding it without breaking the bank. The timing could not be better either. With Stokes hurt, Richardson sidelined, and the rest of the room either banged up or underperforming, Las Vegas is in a position where they need to act. Standing pat with the current roster is not going to cut it, especially in a division where you are facing quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert multiple times a year. If you don't have corners who can keep up, you're dead in the water. That's the harsh reality of today's NFL, and the Raiders know it. So when you line everything up, Woolen becomes more than just a flyer. He's a calculated gamble. Seattle has depth and could be willing to move on. The Raiders have need, urgency, and a glaring hole in the secondary. And when both of those elements come together, trades actually happen. This isn't one of those fantasy scenarios that sound fun but will never see the light of day. This one feels real. It feels possible. And if you look at the Raiders situation closely, it might even feel necessary. The conversation now shifts to price. What does it actually take to get him? Some believe a fourth-round pick would get it done, while others argue a fifth is more realistic given his current form. If Las Vegas can secure him for a fifth, it is a steal. Even a fourth might be worth it when you consider the comp picks that are expected to come back in the draft. You are essentially swapping one middle-round selection for a proven NFL athlete who has already shown he can play at a high level. And here is the kicker. If Woolen regains even a portion of that rookie form, you are suddenly talking about a cornerback who could earn a contract extension in the range of $15 million per year. That is the kind of player you build a secondary around. It is the kind of gamble that can change the direction of a defense. And right now, the Raiders are in a position where they have to take some of those chances if they want to claw their way out of mediocrity. I can already hear the debates firing up in the fan base. Some will say pass, that the Raiders should hold onto their picks holes in the secondary, and the chance to snag a player with Woolen's profile make the decision lean heavily in one direction. The Raiders need to act, and this is the kind of move that shows they are serious about fixing the defense. When you start thinking about how the Raiders could actually structure this deal, the possibilities become pretty clear. The Seahawks originally found Woolen in the 5th round of the 2022 draft. And if the Raiders step up with a similar offer, it feels like a fair outcome for both sides. Imagine buying a car, driving it for a few years, and then reselling it at the exact same price you bought it for. That is essentially what Seattle could be doing if they move Woolen for a future 5th-round pick. For the Raiders, it is a chance to add a corner with upside without burning premium draft capital. For Seattle, it is a way to clear a roster logjam, get an asset back, and avoid dealing with an upcoming contract negotiation that they clearly are not excited about. Some fans might say that a 5th is too low, that Seattle will demand a 4th or even more. And that's possible. The argument is that other teams around the league could enter the mix, which would drive up the asking price. But the Raiders are in a unique position because of the Carroll connection and the fact that Las Vegas can pitch themselves as the perfect landing spot for Woolen to rejuvenate his career. If Seattle wants to send him somewhere he can play right away and rebuild his value, Las Vegas makes a lot of sense. The Raiders are also holding onto extra mid-round picks from compensatory selections, which makes it easier for them to part with one without jeopardizing their draft flexibility. Now let's really dig into what Woolen brings to the table. At 6'4" and around 210 pounds, he is built like no other corner on the Raiders roster. He can match up with the big-bodied receivers in the league. He has the length to disrupt passing lanes, and his speed allows him to stick with vertical routes that most corners would struggle with. Even if his confidence has dipped in Seattle, those physical traits remain. You cannot coach size, you cannot coach speed, and Woolen is both in rare quantities. If you're a defensive coordinator staring at this Raiders roster right now, you would welcome that tool set with open arms. Look back at his rookie season numbers, and it becomes clear why he is still valuable. 6 interceptions, 16 passes defended, and constant production as teams repeatedly tested him. Quarterbacks thought they could expose a rookie, but Woolen flipped the script and punished them. Those instincts are still inside him, and with the right coaching and system, there's no reason he cannot find that rhythm again. For the Raiders, who have struggled for years to develop a true ball-hawk corner, this is exactly the kind of high-upside move that could finally turn the tide. But it is not just about raw stats or physical attributes. The timing matters here. The Raiders' defensive front, led by Max Crosby, is generating pressure, but without reliable coverage on the back end. Those pressures don't always translate to turnovers. Adding a player like Woolen could create that synergy where the front and back end of the defense work together. Imagine Crosby collapsing the pocket and a longer corner like Woolen lurking to snatch up an ill-advised throw. That is how defenses flip games. And that is what the Raiders are missing right now. Seattle's situation is equally important in this discussion. They're stacked at corner in ways they have not been in years. Witherspoon is a stud, Kendrick is emerging, Job is holding it down, and Woolen is the one being squeezed out. For a team like the Seahawks, it is better to sell high and gain a pick rather than let a talented player rot on the bench. Pete Carroll has never been afraid to shuffle his secondary and make tough decisions. And this could be one of those moments where he cashes in on a player who no longer fits his long-term plan. That opens the door for the Raiders to swoop in. The Raiders' front office has to weigh this carefully, though. Woolen is not a sure thing. His regression is real, and the advanced metrics paint a concerning picture. But this is where calculated risks define organizations. You can sit on your hands, hope that Stokes heals up, and pray that Porter, Holmes, or Richardson suddenly develop into starting caliber corners. Or you can take action, use a mid-round pick on a proven athlete, and bet on your coaching staff to do their job. Standing still in the NFL is usually just another way of falling behind. And this is why Raiders Nation is buzzing about it. Fans know this team is desperate for secondary help. They see the division. They see Mahomes slicing defenses apart. They see Herbert firing lasers all over the field, and they understand that without more reliable corners, the Raiders are fighting uphill battles every week. Trading for Woolen is not about chasing a superstar. It is about filling a glaring need with a player who, under the right circumstances, could be much more than just a stopgap. There's also an emotional element here. Woolen was the kind of prospect the Raiders were linked to back in 2022. Many fans hoped he would land in silver and black back then. Now, 2 years later, the chance to bring him in feels like unfinished business. The idea of giving him a fresh start in Las Vegas, under a staff that desperately needs answers, adds to the intrigue. For Woolen himself, it could be the perfect opportunity to reset his career. He knows he has the skill set, he knows he can play at a high level, and the Raiders might just be the team that give him the chance to prove it all over again. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers around the league have turned into an almost deafening buzz. Tariq Surtain II is reportedly the Raiders' new CB1. While the team has yet to make an official statement, insiders close to the organization suggest that the young cornerback is set to anchor a secondary that many believe could soon rival the elite units across the NFL. Surtain, who has steadily climbed the ranks since his college days, is known for his combination of instincts, speed, and ball-hawking ability, traits that could make the Raiders' pass defense a talking point in the coming seasons. The chatter began quietly, with sources noting Surtain's growing role in defensive schemes during off-season practices. But as training camp progresses, it appears the coaching staff is committed to elevating him to the CB1 spot, trusting him to match up against top receivers week in and week out. If these rumors hold, it marks a pivotal moment for the Raiders, who have struggled at times to maintain consistency in their secondary. Surtain's emergence could finally give the team the confidence to play aggressive, press man coverage, and take calculated risks in the backfield. League observers are buzzing not only about his potential impact on the Raiders' defense, but also about how his presence could reshape divisional dynamics. Opposing quarterbacks will now have to account for Surtain's range and instinctive playmaking, potentially altering the way offenses approach games in Las Vegas. Rumors hint that his leadership extends beyond the field as well, with teammates reportedly drawn to his professionalism and focus, qualities that could help mold a young, promising secondary into a cohesive, formidable unit. While it remains to be seen whether these whispers will translate into tangible results once the season kicks off, The speculation alone has ignited excitement among the Raiders faithful. Patrick Surtain II as CB1 is more than just a rumor. It's a signal that Las Vegas may finally have the lockdown corner they've long coveted, and the NFL might soon have a new defensive star to watch closely. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.